For cheap PoE currencies, visit aoeah.com. Check the link in the description, you get 3% off with the code ARIAD. Hello and welcome everybody. If you enjoyed my ranger build or my monk, you're going to love this mercenary build, because it combines both builds and is even stronger. It has become my absolute favorite build because I can freely switch between playstyles, allowing me to adapt to any situation, and I never get bored. The build serves as both a map clearer and a boss killer, giving me everything I need in a single character, and the power is truly immense. However, this build is also significantly more expensive and will not unfold its real power before level 52. Of course, I do have some tips for the early game, but this build isn't ideal for playing the first character, because you need different unique items. My strategy for the first season will probably be to start with my ranger build, because it delivers high performance from the very beginning and does not cause any higher costs. Afterwards, I'll most likely transition to this build and keep using some of the ranger items, especially the bow and the quiver. Let's start with the gameplay. We'll be fighting with two different weapons, the combat staff in one slot and the bow in the other one. Tempest Flurry is our melee attack, but it has a great range anyway. We will buff ourselves with a charged staff, just like the monk. The damage is enormous, and for elites and bosses, we'll use the bell again. The only downside is that this attack makes us run towards the monsters, which can be risky if a stronger enemy doesn't go down right away. Storm Wave is our ranged AoE attack for open areas, allowing us to quickly and comfortably clear large groups of mobs as we move along, even if they are coming from all directions. This attack has the lowest damage output, but it's more than enough for regular mobs and even some champions and elites. Conveniently, Storm Wave also works with charged staff. Lightning Arrow is our ranged attack for narrow spaces and maps with many obstacles that block the storm waves. The arrows can be aimed precisely, and the lightning spreads upon impact. In forest maps, the arrows can even fly between the trees and shoot over all kinds of obstacles, and so deliver the damage to the monsters more efficiently than the storm wave. In narrow corridors, where monsters only come from one direction, we can effortlessly wipe out everything in front of us, and we can also shoot into a room through the door from outside. Additionally, Lightning Arrow is our safe option for strong single targets that we don't want to come too close to, so we can decide to deal with elite monsters or bosses from a safe distance. It may take a bit longer, but depending on the type of boss, this can be the more comfortable way. And it is also just nice to have different options. When attacking single targets, we support our lightning arrows with lightning rod, conductivity and orb of storms. Many skill buttons in use here. I configured my keys so that my arrow skills are on the mouse buttons when holding down shift. Here are my gems. There are quite a few in this build, so I won't explain every single support gem in detail. I've made a similar selection to my monk and ranger builds. You'll notice that I have more skill gems than usual, and even use some support gems twice. This flexibility comes from my passive skill points in the Gemmling Ascendancy tree. In the end you wanna add all 5 support gems to the 3 main attacks, but for the first you can start with only 4 of course. After all, perfect Jeweler's orbs are quite expensive. For 3 of the skill gems, you should aim to improve their quality to 20% as soon as possible, which requires some gem cutters prisms. For Storm Wave, the quality improvement increases the area of effect. For Tempest Flurry, it increases the range, and Tempest Bell gets more durable. As you can see, my mercenary has much higher DPS values than Monk or Ranger, with the same attacks and at roughly the same level. Lightning Arrow and Tempest Flurry have about 40k, which is more than double, and even the heralds do about 10k DPS. And that's not even the peak. My skill gems haven't maxed out yet, my passive tree progression will add more damage as well, and high-end bows and quivers can boost my lightning arrow DPS significantly. The rest of my equipment also could still add more damage, so it's possible to achieve much more. So let's move on to the items. Core of the build are the unique gloves Hands of Wisdom and Action, which scale attack speed on dexterity and add base lightning damage for intelligence. That's perfect since all our attacks deal lightning damage and we will stack attributes, particularly intelligence. I'm almost at 500 intelligence points, so this would add plus 50 to 500 lightning damage for both weapon slots. That's why the Gemmling is so much stronger than the Ranger, but also significantly more expensive. The unique gloves cost about 5 divine orbs, so you'll need to save some currency before you can fully enjoy this build. We also use the unique helmet the 3 dragons, making us able to freeze enemies we hit. The damage remains lightning, but the ailment changes from shock to freeze. For bow and quiver I use my ranger items, so here we need high physical and lightning DPS, and we like affixes for extra skill levels and attack speed, just like increased elemental or bow damage. For the staff, we use the unique item Pillar of the Caged God. This weapon pays since we are stacking attributes, so don't be fooled by its low base damage. You can use this weapon in the early game yet, and it also remains our endgame weapon. Thanks to my intelligence value, I get 200% increased area of effect here. On the armor pieces we need resistances of course, and we want to get as many attribute points as possible, mainly focusing on intelligence and all attributes, but some extra dexterity and strength can also pay off. After all, intelligence doesn't roll on every item type. We also need some extra spirit on armor or amulet to activate all the buffs. The most expensive items in this build are the gloves and the bow. The other uniques are quite cheap, and for the rares you'll need to see what fits your budget. It's also great if your gear includes some fire and cold damage, so you can apply all elemental ailments. Finally, the passive skill tree. There are some very important ascendancy points we absolutely need for the build to function. The build only reaches its full power once you've completed all trials. As long as you only have got the first 2, you'll need to play with fewer skill and support gems. The first priority is adaptive capability, which lets us meet all gem attribute requirements by our highest attribute, so we don't have to worry about meeting any requirements, because our intelligence easily covers everything. Next is enhanced effectiveness, which doubles the inherent bonuses of our attributes, granting us more life, mana and accuracy. Integrated efficiency gives us 3 additional skill slots, and gem studded allows us to use all support gems in our setup twice. In the passive tree, we skill lots of attribute nodes, focusing on intelligence. Maybe you will need some points in strength or dexterity for your items, but if not, just put all in intelligence. We first head straight down to the star, where we get all attributes and extra damage scaling on the lowest attribute, which in this build still turns out to be quite a significant amount. You can pick up Doomsayer later on, but I first made a big loop around the outer edge, picking up many jewel sockets as well. These can be used for attack speed and increased lightning damage. Acceleration is also useful, but my goal on the right side was Coming Calamity, just as in my Ranger and Monk builds. Here we take a path to Falcon technique, picking up extra dexterity along the way. Then we proceed around the outside to the first lightning cluster, where Wild Storm provides a strong damage multiplier, and to the second lightning cluster at the very top, where Pure Power grants us 2% increased lightning damage per 10 intelligence. On the way there, we also add lots of intelligence. To be able to use charged staff, we still need the resonance node, which converts our frenzy charges we generate by combat frenzy into power charges. Next I plan to allocate points to echoing frost, flames and thunder, and at the top lightning cluster I still need to pick up electric amplification. The remaining points will either go into elemental damage or more intelligence. In the early game, use the unique staff and attack with Ice Strike and Tempest Bell. You can also play Lightning Arrow and Lightning Rod from the beginning. As long as you don't have the gloves, allocate passive points into strength instead of intelligence. I will continue leveling this character now, because it completely replaces my monk and my ranger. This build combines both playstyles into one and is much stronger. I'm blazing through T15 maps, and most map mods don't even bother me, since I can adapt my playstyle to the situation. On maps with dangerous mods, I just stay safe and fight from distance. When facing bosses, I can spontaneously decide how to approach them. The fastest way is Tempest Flurry and the Bell, but that can also become risky sometimes. So you can switch to the Ranger playstyle at any time and shoot the boss while running around him. Thanks to Lightning Rod, Conductivity and Orb of Storms, it doesn't take too long either. Finally I have found my favorite build, but don't worry, I'll also revisit how to optimize my Ranger, Warrior and Monk builds. For today I'm signing off. I say goodbye, take care and may the loot be with you.
Come on. Follow me. Thank you. Goodbye.